Hello again, welcome to Touch Base. Let's do music. Today I'm going to do a follow-up to my last video, which was me making music with my sort of usual setup, what I call the trifecta. We'll call this trifecta part 2, but not really. Kind of the same way that the Joker part 2 was not the same as the first Joker movie. This is not going to be the same kind of video. First one, I kind of just like made music. This one, I'm going to show you how I'm taking that music from my SP, bringing it into my Mac using the SP app, and then arranging those stems in Reason using block mode, then maybe track my Roland S-1 over here, get a few good takes of some good performances of that. By the end of this session, I should have a pretty solid track in Reason with what I did last time. So without further ado, let's get going. All right, so the first thing I'll do is open up the SP-404 MK2 application right here, and look at, we have it here. It has all of our banks for this particular project laid out here, and if I click this here, you can see all the different samples that I have in this project. So there's a couple ways I could go about doing this. I could export from the patterns, which would stitch everything together the way that they are in the pattern, but I don't want to do that. The reason is these samples have tails, and if I export them as a pattern, it'll cut the tail off of it. The kick pattern is important. That was the thing that I sequenced in the SP that I want to take out, export that way. Everything else, I'm going to just export as a sample because I resampled a bunch of it and I want to keep those tails, so I'm going to make sure to export samples. All right, and to demonstrate how to export files, let me export my base resample here that I have with the filter for my build, which is sample 12 here. I select that sample here on the app, I drag it over to the window here, confirm operation, I hit OK, give it a second, and I click open folder. It'll take me to my export sample folder, and look, there it is. And now for the patterns, I'm going to click patterns. The pattern that I want to do is just anything with a kick, really. I'd select that. I go to select export pattern folder, export pattern as multipad. I'm gonna hit OK. It's gonna export those as stems as sequenced in the pattern into a folder. There's another really important thing that I have to address here as well while this exports. You have to rename these samples. If you don't rename the samples, they're all just called new sample every time you make a new sample. Unless you make it with a sound generator, then it's called SG. So for example, this one's made with a sound generator and it's called SG. So rename this one D7 because it's bank D pad 7. So it's important to go through these, click this pencil here, and rename all your samples before you do any exporting because it'll overwrite stuff. It'd be cool in a future update if they made it so that each new sample was a unique file name. And in multipad, project 6, pattern D1, what do I have here? I have the rumble, and then I have that kick pattern. Now I have that stem. Let's bring it into Reason. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the BPM 140. I'm going to go up to options and click enable blocks. This is really important. I'm going to hit B to enter a block. I'm going to call this one pattern 5. The reason I'm doing that is because I did a bunch of arranging in my SP, and what I really want to do is take that work and translate it into here, which should be very easy. The reason I'm picking pattern 5 is because pattern 5 uses a lot of the elements that I have. Let's start with our kick. Drag that in there. I also exported pattern 5 as stems as well because I need that clap track too. Let's bring our clap in there too. Let's get our loops in. Loop 1. Let's do that. All right, so we got our loops in there. I'm gonna make pattern 6 by clicking this. Pattern 6. I'm gonna go back to pattern 5. Gonna hit Command A, copy, pattern 6, paste all that there. Let's bring in my ride finally. Just want to bring in that ride. I'm gonna go back to my timeline here. I'm gonna draw in pattern 5 and then do some pattern 6. There we go. All right, I'm gonna cut and then I'm gonna do a couple things and then we'll jump back in. All right, so here's what we did. I have pattern 5 and pattern 6 here on my timeline. I have a bunch of other stuff. Let's go to the rack and show you just a couple of things I did. Here, this is for the reason heads. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to sidechain the rumble and a few other things like the bass. I took a Spider Audio and I brought it into my insert effects, and then I dragged an output so that I could make multiple outputs from my kick to bring into the inputs for the side chains that I'm about to make. I know, this should be easier, but bear with me, it's worth it. I created a sidechain tool in my rumble guy, and then I took one of the inputs from the Spider from my kick, brought it into my sidechain there. I added some effects to my kick to make it a little punchier, some compressor just to tighten it up a little bit. I added some distortion to my bass, and I also added a sidechain there, and a stereo imager to make the low parts mono and the high parts wide. A compressor on top of that to also tighten that. I cleaned up a bunch of stuff, I did some EQ, and now it sounds like this. Oh yeah, that sounds really good. It's so fun to start something here, take it in here, and it's fairly easy to do so. Now let's do some more arranging. I'm gonna go to pattern 5. I'm gonna copy everything here. I'm gonna go to block 3. I'm gonna call that intro. I'm gonna paste that there. That's our intro. All right, so now we have our big intro. I'm gonna just draw some in there. It goes to 33, and then it's patterns 5 and 6. And this is the beginning of our song. Has that intro like that. Loops. Bass. Ride comes in. Ooh, see how that ride cuts off there? Let's go into intro. Let's copy our ride. Let's bring it out here into the real timeline so that it has that tail. And now that is a healthy beginning of our song. So what I like about this song is that it's just going to have one big sort of drop in the middle and then ride it the rest of the way out. I like how the intro and the beginning of this song are just kind of like this big groove that all leads to this big drop. Let's make a block where I have a build. Let's drag the bass build in here. Nice. Okay, bass build. I'm also going to drag in my wind. Let's drag that to our audio track we haven't used yet. Wind. Going to reverse that. S1 is set up. Alright, now here's a fun thing. I have my SP-404 is my audio device on my computer. Let me create an audio track here. Click in stereo input. I'm gonna call this track S1. So here we have our little sounds so good. So I can just do a really big take of that. So here we go. Alright, so there you have it. I got a nice take out of my S1. I love how it all comes together in the mix. I love how pretty straightforward it was for me to make and then get into my DAW. That sounds great. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this follow-up to my last video. If you like videos like this, let me know in the comments. I'll make more like this. I'll show you how I integrate my dawless setup with my DAW. and how I make music like this. It's a workflow that I really like. I think the workflow is why it sounds as energetic and interesting and fun as it does. I love getting a live take, of course, of a synthesizer and incorporating that. My S1 sounds awesome. So thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.